Hey guys, today we're diving into individual array methods that make your code faster, smarter, and more powerful. We're starting with .sum, a great method that checks if at least one item in an array matches a condition. So let's break it down. What is .sum? So .sum is a method you call on an array. It runs a function on each item, and if any of those return true, then .sum returns true. It's like asking, does this array contain something that meets my criteria? Okay, so let's have a look at the basic syntax of the array.sum method. So we start with the array, then we access the sum method, and here we want to pass a function, and then a parameter item, then between curly brackets, we want to return a condition. So with the .sum method, you give it a function, it runs that function for each item in the array. If it finds a match, it stops and returns true. Okay, so let's comment this out and have a look at an example. So here, what we're trying to establish is if a numbers array contains a number or numbers that are greater than the number 10. So let's start by declaring a variable, numbers. Then we assign it an array with the following numbers, 4, 7, 12, and then 3. Then we say, let has big number equals the numbers array. Then we call the .sum method. Then we pass a function with the parameter num. Then between curly brackets, we want to return if num is greater than 10. Okay, then we want to console log has big number, and we see true. So what is exactly going on here? So again, we've got a numbers array containing 4, 7, 12, and 3, and we are checking if in the numbers array it contains a number that is greater than 10. So in the first check, 4 is not greater than 10, so it's gonna keep going to check 7. Is 7 greater than 10? No. Is 12 greater than 10? Yes. And then because it has found 1, it returns true. So since 12 is greater than 10, the .sum method returns true. If none of the numbers pass the test, it would return false. So again, we're asking here, does this array contain something that meets my criteria? What is the criteria? The num has to be greater than 10. This is the criteria. And then it's gonna either say yes or no, true or false. So in this array, those numbers 4, 7, 12, and 3, only 12 is greater than 10, but that's enough, because we only need 1 and it's going to return true. And this is why we see true in the console. Okay, let's comment these out and do the same thing using the arrow function this time. We will cover arrow functions in detail in the future, but basically you can also use the arrow functions in this case to make it shorter, and it's going to give us the same result. So again, we have let has big number equals the numbers array dot sum, and here instead of passing function num like we did here, all we have to pass here is num, and then we're saying here return num greater than 10. So if we console log has big number, we're going to see true again. So again, with the arrow function, we replace function num with simply num here. And then instead of saying return, we use the arrow. So the arrow here is like return, and then the condition, num greater than 10. Okay, let's comment these out now. Okay. And have a look at a real-world example which checks if any product is out of stock. So to save some time, I created a products array with the following objects or the following products. So we've got the first one, laptop, it's in stock. The second one, monitor, it's not in stock. And the third one, mouse, is in stock. Okay, so what we want to check now is if the products array contains any product that is currently out of stock. So how do we do that? We declare a variable and say has out of stock, and then we will assign it starting with the products array, then the .sum method, and here we're going to use the arrow function to look for each product, and we want to return if the product does not or is not in stock. Okay, here it should be an arrow. Okay, and then if we console log now, has out of stock, we see true. Okay, so again, what's happening here? So we've got the products array, and we're going through the objects one by one using the .sum, and we're looking at each product, each object, and our condition here is that we don't want it to be in stock. So the product.inStock should be false, in other words, because product.inStock is true, and we use the exclamation mark to reverse that. Okay, so this is the condition. We're looking at not in stock. So since the first product is in stock, this does not meet our condition. And then it moves to the second one. Now in stock is false, which meets our condition. So it's gonna say, yeah, we found one. It has one out of stock basically, which is this one here. And that's why we see true in the console. Okay, let's comment these out here. So I just want to show you that you can do the same thing with a loop, but the .sum method is much cleaner and easier. So let's say here we have a variable found, and we set it to false. Then we start a for of loop for let product of products, the array, and then between curly brackets, we want to have a condition. What are we checking? We're saying if product in stock, but actually if it's not in stock. So we don't want it to be in stock. We're looking for, or we're searching to see if the products array contains a product that is currently out of stock. Okay, then here between curly brackets, we want to change found or to set it to true. And if it's true, we want to break. Okay, so now we get true here. So again, this is how you would do it using a for of loop. But as you can see, it's much easier and simpler to use the .sum method. Okay, let's comment everything out now to clear the console and move to our last item in this episode, which is the practice exercise. So I'd like you to create an array of 5 numbers, use the sum method to check if any number is even. If so, log there is at least one even number. If not, log all numbers are odd. So pause the video now, have a go at it, and come back for the solution. Okay, so let's have a look at how we could solve this. So we declare a variable numbers, and we assign it an array of numbers 1, 3, 5, 7, and 8. Then we declare a variable called has even. Then we assign it the numbers array, then the sum method. Then for each number, we want to return n, which is number remainder of 2 equals 0, which means if we divide the number by 2, we should have 0 remaining. So for example, 10 divided by 2, we have 5 and 5. There's nothing left, so that's 0. So now let's console log if the numbers array has an even number. So we say if has even, and then between curly brackets, we want to console log. And then we say there's at least one even number. Okay, then here else, and console log all numbers are odd. So you can see here in the console we have there's at least one even number. That's because when we divide 8 by 2, we have remainder 0. So again, 8 by 2, so you have 4 and 4, nothing remains, 0, so that returns has even. If you do 1, that's not possible, 3 not possible, 5 not possible, and 7 not possible. So only 8 in this case is possible, and that's why we have here in the console, there's at least one even number, which in this case is the number 8. So you've just learned how to use the sum array method in JavaScript, which is a clean, modern way to check if any item in an array passes a certain condition. In the next episode, we'll look at its twin, the every method in JavaScript, which checks if all items pass the test. If you're enjoying this JavaScript series, hit subscribe and keep practicing. See you in the next one.